Hello, I would like to talk about a build that I think is perfect for new players and updates a previous meta build to current meta standards. So the general gist of this build is that you're going to have to use everything for everything at some point. You get yourself acquainted with using all of your tools at their most and least effective so you can figure out when you should and shouldn't be using them. Okay, so dueling sword, recon lasgun, stamina, toughness, toughness with this talent tree. So, immediately, I want to talk about potential replacement weapons. Mark 6 Power Sword and Vrax 5 Infantry Autogun. Okay, so let's get a little in detail here. Unyielding, Flak, Uncanny, Riposte. Yeah, you kind of have to run it this way. Let me talk about why. So, so let's talk about what we don't have. We don't have Carapace damage. And that's for a very specific reason. So, Riposte gives us 20% critical hit chance, and Reciprocity gives us 25% critical hit chance, and Desperado gives us 10% critical hit chance. So when we're actually fighting things, this encourages you to run up to enemies to start dodging their attacks to give yourself a massive damage boost. And the reason why this matters is because of this right here. So let's get Uncanny Strike procced, and you'll see how little health he has? If we got just one crit there, he would have died from that. And we get 60% crit chance by actually fighting and dodging things. So there's absolutely no reason to take Carapace because you'll still kill Crushers in 2 hits if you're actively dodging attacks anyways, which you want to be doing, which is why this build encourages it. It forces you to get into melee and actually get accustomed to dodging things. You are turning the enemy's attacks into your own strength. It's like a Dragon Ball Z thing, when they're like fighting each other and they like counter an attack. That's basically how a lot of melee in this game works. You need to manipulate the enemy attacks to work for your benefit. And that's what things like Reciprocity and Riposte do. They enable you to actually benefit from the enemy's attacks. So even when you're focused on keeping yourself alive, you're still actually increasing your own damage output. So there's no harm in just, if you want to stop attacking, to focus on defense, which I think is a lot of value for a newer player. Flak is because of Flak hordes. Frankly, no other reason. These guys benefit greatly from having Flak on your melee. So do all these little gunners that you want to kill with melee anytime you can. So do these guys, frankly. There's just a lot of enemies that are Flak. Like, seriously, the list is big. Like their head is Flak. Those guys are Flak. All this shit is Flak. All this is Flak. Like, it just covers the most amount of things, and it's the most amount of things that are actually relative to what the weapon's doing. Okay, let's talk Recon Lasgun. Flak is, again, for the same reason. You're going to be using your gun primarily to, 1, kill hordes, though I do want to give a big asterisk there. That's specifically because this is the Recon Lasgun. And 2, these guys are Flak, these guys are Flak, and these guys' heads are Flak. Also, these guys are, like, Flak, like, everywhere. So, the gunners that you're fighting the most, that you're counter-gunning a lot, I like how I just didn't hit any part of this guy that was Flak. Man, I'm really not making myself look good here. There it is. See? Like, there's, like, this area, like, their chest around their head is Flak. So, like, you'll go for a headshot, miss, and end up half of your hits hitting Flak. I know it doesn't look like that right there, but that's kind of just a symptom of him standing still in this Icanium, so it's actually kind of hard to hit that region. You can just do that. But when you're actually playing the game, and you're, like, this far back, and everything's moving, you'll, like... Yeah, you see how it, like, keeps flashing into Flak? You'll get a lot of hits that hit the head, and just as many that hit the chest. Okay, anyway. So, critical strike chance is honestly because you just can't... You need more crit to proc this more to save more ammo. So something I do want to talk about as well, since we're down here on the skill tree, Demo Team and Onslaught. Demo Team is one of the best skills in the entire game, frankly, but it adds a lot of complexity to every veteran build. Because 1, if you're not playing on Auric level, if you're playing below, like, Auric Damnation, like, high-intensity games, then this is no longer worth having because you're just not killing enough enemies that proc it. 2, when you do have it, you need to constantly think, I have 3 grenades. Okay, I need to throw this. My grenade timer, it's halfway to coming back. I got to throw another one. It just adds a shit ton of micromanaging to vet builds. Now, I will say, like, as shown in my Havoc World's First clip, Demo team is too strong to ignore once you reach the late game. With it generating, like in Havoc 40, I have it generating on average like 50 grenades. It is genuinely like way over the line powerful. But if you play on like Malice or like just non-Auric Damnation, it's probably going to generate less, like 10 or less for you. And Onslaught would usually be really great for a recon lasgun. It adds 40% brittleness, which is actually a lot. It's even a decent amount of boss damage. And honestly, it kind of hurt to not take this. But, like, the boss damage is fine without it. And you're not using the recon lasgun to kill crushers. So, remember how I showcased that you can just, like, two-shot the one guy? You can two-shot the crusher when you have your crits going? Well, that kind of devalues that, you know? Spending like 50 plus bullets just to kill one crusher. It kind of isn't that valuable when you have a melee that can like 70% of the time just two-shot them. And 30% of the time three-shot them. Actually, I'm sorry, it's even more than that. It's more like 90% of the time one-shot them because it's two attacks. Two attacks with like 66% chance, but whatever. So the recon lasgun is primarily used to just beam down gunners, bosses, and hordes, believe it or not. And this is where Headhunter comes in. So Infernus is a really popular blessing for the recon lasgun because it's the blessing that on average is going to give you the most boss damage. But you're gaining that boss damage at the expense of everything else. And the thing is, the dueling sword, the biggest weakness of the dueling sword is horde clear. It's not shabby at it, especially with weapon specialist, but it's not good at it either. You know what's really good at horde clear? This is. And because the recon lasgun is so unbelievably ammo efficient, there is genuinely no harm in using the recon lasgun to shoot hordes if you already have teammates that are meleeing them. So honestly, your primary use should be, you should be using a grenade at least once every 60 seconds. You never want to be at full grenades on veteran, ever. Never, ever, ever, ever. So always throw your grenades at the horde, and if at melee, if you already have teammates fighting them in melee, and you have a lot of ammo, there's no harm in just pulling this out and just sweeping through and killing the horde way quicker than the melee guys would. And mind you, every single one of those kills is also going to proc this. So this is the other thing I want to talk about, your defense, because this build is incredibly durable. This build is tankier than an Ogryn build is, which is really funny to consider. So every single time you swap your weapon, you proc this. Getting a kill with your weapon gives you this, which we'll talk about in a second. But getting any kind of kill, even just a grenade kill while holding a weapon, so it gives me that buff. This weapon swap right here, that just gave me 20% toughness. Here, let me just show you what I'm talking about. Specialist. Okay, now watch this. So look, we throw the grenade, we swap weapons, get toughness back. Grenade gets kills, which gives us toughness. We swap back, and we're good. See? Do you see just how immediately we got all of our toughness back? And this is not to mention this right here. You can also just shout. So you have so many ways, no matter what you're doing, you're being rewarded for it, and you're getting defense. So if you're just standing still and dodging attacks and focusing on staying alive, you're proccing Reciprocity and Riposte, which gives you a shit ton of damage. If you're walking backwards and changing weapons, or running into a horde and changing into your melee, you're proccing Weapon Specialist, which is giving you toughness and damage. If you're just throwing a grenade so you can preemptively run into the horde, that's proccing out for blood and giving you toughness and dealing damage. Everything about this build is good from a meta perspective because literally anything you do with anything is giving you multiple levels of rewards. You're getting offensive increasements for doing anything by virtue of proccing Weapon Specialist, and you're getting defensive increases for doing everything by virtue of changing weapons or throwing grenades or just having things die. So no matter what you're doing, it's always the correct option because you're always getting rewarded on defense and offense for doing it. Oh yeah, Headhunter. Sorry, I got a bit distracted there. Headhunter giving you crit chance lets you crit more. So the thing with Infernus is Headhunter is always going to be more ammo efficient than Infernus because no one is doing this. Let me just throw this blessing on real quick. There is this weird misconception, and no one is doing something like this, where you just, like, Oh, yeah, hold on. Let me reset this so you can see the health bars. No one is, like, trying to do this, where you try to shoot the exact number of times needed to get a kill. You know, like this. Oh, is that even going to be enough? Okay, cool. Just barely. If I got, like, 1 less crit or 1 second less there, it wouldn't have worked. But, okay, yeah, you see right there, no one is playing like that, where you're just tap firing to try and, like, you know, you're fishing. This is called crit fishing, and you're only doing this to proc Infernus because you can use it to save some ammo. But, one, that's really bad versus if you were going to spend this on hordes, and it's kind of bad versus specials. See? So, like, the only time this blessing is really, really good, because here's the thing, even if you can do this versus specials, you don't want to just shoot specials a little bit, then wait for the dot to kill them, because let's say you have a trapper running in, right, and you think you or a teammate's gonna get hit by the trapper. What's better? Just doing that and getting rid of the problem before it can act, or trying to burst fire to get a crit, hope you notice the crit, then let the dot kill the enemy, which allows it to still do its special thing. So Infernus isn't really good, and if you aren't going to let the dot tick down, like, knowingly, well, here's a mutant, one of the tankiest enemies in the whole game. Okay, so 1823 DPS with Infernus. And now give me Headhunter. So remember, like, 1820 DPS. So, not only did Infernus add, like, literally fucking nothing in terms of DPS, you also have to consider that Infernus doesn't help you crit more, which means you crit less with Infernus, which means you activate this passive less, which means you use more ammo to do the same thing, even if you let the dot tick down. This blessing saves you ammo. It makes you do about the same amount of damage anyways. It's just kind of better in every way, and I don't like pretending that Infernus is, like, on the same league as it. But it's not bad by any stretch of the imagination. Okay, let's put it this way. If I had to make a tier list, Headhunter would be S tier and Infernus would be top of A tier, right below S tier. So, like, you can't really go wrong by choosing it. Just Headhunter synergizes more with the build and rewards you in more situations than Infernus does. Okay, as far as Curios go, you really, really want stamina, especially as a newer player. Stamina, the more of it you have, the more of it you can sprint. Sprinting with stamina makes you move faster, including faster than the Horde. It lets you block more, and it just slows the pace of the game down if that's what you need. So let's say your back is against the wall, and you need to look for a way out of the Horde, which I have a whole video on, by the way. You know, shilling, mwah, shilling. You can just hold block and let the Horde beat on you for a second while you just look for, okay, I can get out this way. And so you start moving this way. It also lets you bash more, which just means you can stagger lock the Horde for longer. And it just, again, it's a possible way to slow the game down. Whereas if I take this Stamina Curio off, and I have 3 stamina bars, look at how quickly I run out. If you get left, and then look at how slow I become. And then look, this is with stamina regeneration as well. You know? So if I took stamina regeneration off, this would take like 40% longer to come back. You also can only push 3 times. There's really no reason to not play without an extra stamina curio. Like at this point. The 17% extra toughness you would get just isn't worth all the utility stamina provides. Especially, let's say you're playing with 3 people that are using 1 stamina curio. Well, they're just going to be they're just going to be able to run faster than you for way longer. I mean, look, this literally like triples the amount of time you can run with stamina. Which means I can go way further than you and faster. So if you get left behind a lot, that's probably a big reason why. Toughness is just better than health. And toughness is so strong, it makes the 5% worth doing. And toughness is only so strong because, 1, you can get a lot of toughness damage reduction very easily. And 2, you can restore toughness very easily, unlike health. You know, you also have this shit. So the other thing with this build is you want to be borderline spamming voice of command on cooldown no matter what. Because you're using CDR on your Curios, every specialist enemy you kill lowers the cooldown as well. And it stacks. So even if you have like 3 people in the lobby all playing this exact build, and this is why I think this build is so perfect for newcomers, This build has mega positive synergy with itself because more people. This build doesn't have a weakness. It has like S tier boss damage, S tier armor killing, and S tier horde clear. And it also has S tier survivability because of all the little defensive nodes giving you toughness back. And the best part is even if you have 4 players in the lobby all playing this, nothing overlaps or overwrites here. This is the other reason Infernus isn't good. If you've got multiple people using it, it just kind of doesn't do anything. Whereas, multiple people running Headhunter, just it's the same value. But this stacks, which means if everyone on your team is just, doing this. Now, let's say you have 4 of these. Well, having 4 of these, even if all 4 people on your team are playing this exact build the exact same way and spamming their ultimate on cooldown, all that does is give you more toughness to get more reduction to be harder to kill. Okay, now let's talk about the Keystone and how that works. So the way Weapon Specialist works is it's all about getting kills with one weapon, buffing the next weapon. So I get a few kills with this, and now it gives my next shot on my gun guaranteed crit. And this synergizes with the passive that saves me ammo on a crit. So then I use that to get kills with this gun to swap back to melee, and now my melee attacks faster and I dodge further. So with the dueling sword, which is already one of the most mobile weapons, that increase in dodge, I mean, look at this. Like, this is more mobility than the knife. Oh yeah, and by the way, this is with mobility being used as a dump stat. Here, like, let me pull out a knife as well, just to really emphasize this. Again, knife with dumped mobility. Like, it is very impossible. Then you add in the extra blocking you can do from the stamina. And, like, you should never die like this. The only way you can die like this is if you are greedy and overcommit to offense, that you don't have the familiarity with the melee system to back up. Because there's too many enemies and you get swarmed. Oh, wait, let me refavorite this before I delete it like an idiot. Okay. So I think that covers everything, honestly. Yeah, I think that covers just about everything. I think I talked about Onslaught and Demo Team, and Demo Team's only worth it on Auric. Onslaught's not needed because the dueling sword kills Crushers too effectively. Yeah, alright, I don't think I missed anything. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed Darktide. It's a really awesome game.